fear around us, and then what difference does the gospel make at all in relation to all this? And I hope it's been helpful. We've been coming on, having about a dozen people tune in on live, and then a couple dozen or so afterwards be able to enjoy it and be able to get something hopefully out of it. I've really enjoyed these conversations. Fear and fear around us. So today we are going to be dealing with the subject of generosity as we talk about the coronavirus, fear, and the gospel. And I've got Luke Thomas here. We're really going to ask a series of questions, and Luke's going to answer all of them so well that we won't even have anything to add. Sorry, that's just kidding. No pressure, Luke. We're going to have a discussion around these questions, and at some point I want to ask for other people to chime in as things come to mind, because we are seeing different things, and it's a developing situation that is moving fast enough that it's helpful to really have other eyes on the same situation. So what we did is on Monday, we actually talked with Luke, and we talked about just a lot of it was the physiological effects of fear and what's going on inside of us when we respond that way. On Tuesday, we were able to go through the Enneagram and different stressors. On Wednesday, we were able to really pick up how do you lead others in fear with Greg Gibson. And then on yesterday, we were able to talk to someone that's a wealth advisor that's also a professor of accounting on the difference between God's economy and a fear economy. And I found it to be really, really helpful. We can see so much of a fear-based reaction. Initially, when it came to health, that still stayed up, or concerns, though I think we're getting used to a different schedule now. The economy and questions on the economy are very heightened. So yesterday's conversation was very helpful. But today we want to move where we left off yesterday to, okay, assuming that we're in our economy, that we're in a kingdom to where God is really providing some great security for us. Do I have an echo? Can you hear an echo, Luke?
No, I can't.
Great. So if God is providing for us security for us, how do we operate out of that security in order to be generous to others? Okay. So let's consider that as we work on that together. Luke, tell us a little bit again about yourself and background, so that those of you that aren't familiar with you can catch up with that.
Yeah, my name is Luke. I'm a pastor in Knoxville, Tennessee. I pastor a church called Legacy Church, which we planted 9 years ago here. And I've been in church planting and campus ministry for the last 22 years. So I've got a wife and 3 kids, one about to go to college, one that is in the middle of her sophomore year, what was her sophomore year, and then I got a little 10-year-old. So yeah, that's who we are in a nutshell.
Okay. All right, cool. Good. And tell us a little bit about what this experience this last week has been for you, social distancing, what's been a challenge and what's been a surprise for you.
Yeah, I don't know that my challenge is going to be too different than many people. I mean, I pastor a church, so navigating a church that's built on community into a new season where community looks very different, that is a challenge. And I'm kind of realizing after the last week how much of my role depends on proximity, being tightly connected to other people face to face. I didn't realize how much I use that until I can't leave my house, or if I'm with somebody, it's in a living room or out in the front yard or something like that. It's really changed the way that I've led and pastored people. So it's disrupted just about every rhythm that I've had. It's totally changed everything, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, on my end, it's really disrupted our family. My wife teaches a Montessori school, which is all hands on. So now she's shifting to teaching everything online. which is kind of worksheet based, a little bit more traditional school will work in this case. But her to be able to transition everything has been a big challenge. Plus, homeschooling our kids. So she's got a full-time job. We're homeschooling. I've done that years have passed. We're an advantage because we got a teacher in the house, a real live teacher in the house. But at the same time, it has caused definitely some concerns or just disruption. But I think a lot of that, honestly, for us is almost somewhat absorbed from others and the anxiety that's kind of gone around.
Yeah.
What about you, Luke?
Yeah. Well, I feel like we've had a lot of disruptions, some of them good. I mean, just speaking with my wife this morning about it a little bit, it seems like everything's being canceled. Orchestra was canceled. Track and field was canceled. Graduations are canceled. Dance recitals have been canceled. Co-ops have been canceled. Music lessons have been, everything has been canceled. And so we've been just handed this lump sum of margin, this time and space we've never had before,
Yeah.
And even last night, me and my bride, we went to Costco, and there it was metered. So they only let people in as many as have come out. And so we stood in line for 5 minutes, but being inside a store that big with so few people to, protect that barrier was eerie. But it did just kind of underscore how much time and space we have now that we've never had before. So adapting to that, leveraging it, celebrating this new time that we have to work and play and rest with each other. That's been a great adaptation that we've had to make. So when I say everything has been disrupted for my job, for my role as a pastor and as a leader, it's been a lot of navigating and innovating and adapting new rhythms, and we'll figure all that out. I'm not as but what I've enjoyed is seeing the new space given to us as a family. My ability to go hang out with my daughter and spend more time than I usually am, undistracted time as well. That's been good. That's been good. I've been happy to see that.
Yeah. So certainly a unique challenge is just space and time at home, family. What else? Is any other unique challenges come up in your mind of like what we're facing? A week or a week and a half into most people waking up to the fact that we've got an issue that we need to stay at home with.
Yeah. I mean, are you speaking specifically to generosity and how we're handling that? How I'm handling that?
I was really just asking what are the unique challenges, but you could talk to that. That's where we're going.
I know it's where we're going, but I think it has given me a little bit of an idea of things that I'm doing now to innovate that I feel like I might should have always been doing. The mindfulness of how our people are doing in the church was amplified way high. Our pastors contacting them. How are they doing? Do they need anything? How can we pray for them on the phone right there? Chasing down people that have kind of flirted with our church. They sit, but they don't really join. They're kind of on the fringe, chasing them down and asking the same questions. I think, man, we should be doing this all the time, so it's even brought an eye towards rhythms that I'm going to have to adapt to now, carrying those over into how we communicate with people in the future, how we see the community in the future, how we look at small businesses in the future, how we spot niches and opportunities in the future. So it's been a bit of an audit, not just for my family and our spare time, not just for me and my preference of leadership style, but it's also been a little bit of an audit on practices of leadership in a very quickly shifting age. So that's been interesting, just taking time to note those down, and actually not just noticing them, because I think everybody that's watching has noticed differences, but even taking the time to write them down and say, this is interesting. It's exposing this about myself. I think I'm learning this much more about Christ, this much about myself. I'd like to see this change. I mean, listen, this is an opportunity we're never going to get again. This window that we're in, it's likely, it could happen in the future, but it's unlikely. So we have this unprecedented moment And so I don't want to see it just slip by without
Mhm.
leaning into it and saying, what does this show me about Christ, about myself, that I was not seeing so clearly beforehand? Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think that there for sure are unique temptations like that I'm dealing with that leads me away from generosity. I mean, I will say this day of having our, well, we were delayed because, but second day of really having our kids at home all the time. And one of my sons was driving me crazy in the way that he always drives me crazy. And there's a little bit in me like entitled about like we send you to school for a reason. Like
Yeah.
which is the terrible fatherly, it's the absolutely everything against what I really believe a good father should be doing. And
Yes.
it leads me away from generosity instead of saying, oh good, this is going to surface some stuff
Mhm.
that I should allow to surface so that I can be a father and I can bring healing in this time. I find myself sometimes like social distancing from the people in my own house, like so anyway, yeah. I mean, you're already going the spiritual, but I'm still in the flesh. But I'm still like, having a little trouble.
Well, I'm wearing out my headphones for sure. I'm having to charge those multiple times a day. It is loud here,
Yeah, right.
I do get that. I do get that. Yeah.
That's right. So let's talk in terms of, let's break it down a little bit about who are the people, because there are people that are really experiencing this differently. So, if we're going to talk about generosity, we need to first talk about what you were just talking about, the generosity of God and the generosity of the Lord.
Yeah.
And so I think we'll pick up on that. But we'll also want to talk about what does it mean to be generous with our neighbors, the person in front of me, in my house, the literal neighbors around me that I'm now in my neighborhood a lot more. And then we're going to talk about who's really under resourced at this time and loving them well.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more. I think I need you to talk a little bit more about the generosity of God.
Yeah.
Real
Well,
quick before we just jump straight into output.
I think, again, talking to my bride about this, just kind of whiteboarding it out with her, just what this has exposed in most of Western cultures, this Me Too posture that we take, which is, Me Too, you second, is very antithetical to the gospel, which is truly a message of you first, me second. I mean, we see a selflessness in the gospel. And I think the contrast of that and just the heart on display today has been pretty vivid. It's been very clear for me. Like, again, just walking around Costco, putting stuff in our cart. It was the empty shelves, in the shelves of things that would have a sign above it that said limit one per customer. Those signs are there because people were piling 9 of them in their cart and 10 of them on their cart. And it's just the thing in this, it's a survival instinct. It's that lizard brain in all of us. If I have to protect myself at all costs, even at your cost, I'm going to protect myself. And that is traced all the way back to Adam, which is me first. So we're just seeing that played out in real time, which sets a beautiful stage for the gospel to enter and show us the beautiful story of a hero who made himself behind everyone else, and in a selfless act out of a sense of generosity enriches us as he impoverishes himself. And so that's been something that I think that's a part and an angle and a metaphor of the gospel that I think anyone could understand right now. So if it's ever been easy to see the generosity of God, I think it's easy to see now because it's in contrast with me first and you second, if you at all, you second. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And it was interesting about the thing that's on my mind is the father or the prodigal son that basically is saying, hey, I'm not attached to my possessions. and I'm not attached to my life and everybody being in my house in a controlling manner, you know, the let's go of control. And so you certainly see that with God and us, just the willingness to allow us to get caught up in positions or caught up in our work or whatever it is.
Yes.
And then him running out to us to give us grace upon grace upon grace upon grace. I mean, like for me, I could like say, you idiot, you're being such a bad dad right now with your son. Or I could say, and yet God still loves me
Yeah.
regardless, you know.
Yeah.
And so rather than like, oh, I'm going to just be a good dad and I'm just going to force myself into this, rather, you know, pushing myself rather than, you know, just allowing myself to receive that grace first.
Yeah. Yes.
So anyway, I answered my own question. So
It's a good question. Good
yeah, well,
answer.
thank you very much. Well, let's talk about loving your neighbor and what's a good way when you are stuck in a house with people, or just the people that are more specifically your the person in front of you. What are the mindset challenges and how we love people in front of ourselves, and what are the opportunities that come to your mind?
I'm noticing, whether it's through a Zoom meeting like this or it's, 10 foot away from somebody, I had a what we call a DNA setting, which is just 3 guys together. This morning, we held ours in my HOA's clubhouse, and we're all awkwardly distant from each other, and
Sure.
what I noticed it doing is increasing the quality of my comments and questions. I don't have the quantity I used to. Instead of spending 2 hours or an hour and a half with somebody at Chipotle, just treating every moment as if it's less valuable. I'm now in a setting where I've had to fight hard to get there. I'm having to fight hard to be there. I don't know how much time we really have to do this. It could be, for all we know, in a week or 2, it could all be taken away and we're all shut in. And so I've noticed really putting a lot more intentionality and quality into my questions, leaning into my questions a little bit more. And that's what I was saying earlier. I feel like with the one in front of me, the neighbor in front of me, that's love that I'm just now seeing I should be showing this whole time, and like you said, I feel like the Lord is showing me, Luke, this is really, this is ministry, bud. This is how we lead people. This is how we love people. And so I look forward to whatever new normal awaits us on the other side of this, carrying this over, the high quality, because tomorrow is really never promised. And so for me, loving the person in front of me has meant really enriching and building more intention and quality into the questions, the comments, listening deeper, because we've had to fight so hard to get that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And as I kind of think about that for myself, going back to that conversation that was had on Wednesday, that basically being present is a huge challenge, and especially when you actually have a job and people at home to take care of, just being present. Somebody said to Lindsay, my wife said to me, hey, we need to allow ourselves not to meet this is not a time for excellence.
Yeah.
This is a time for presence. And that was really, really helpful for me to be present and fully with them. And it's helpful for me as I've, continued to process through my reactions. Talk us a little bit about, what about our other neighbors, and what does it look like to be generous? What do you see in the people around you, and what's needed in generosity in this time?
I think everyone's taken a little bit of a communal mindset. I was just getting ready for this sermon this week, and just speaking and loving our people. And I'm just wanting to tell them how proud I am, because the stories that I'm hearing of neighborly love, like logistic neighborly love, it has a communal posture to it, which is now what is mine is yours.
Yeah.
You need anything, I'm here for you. I had a buddy this morning come over and pick up a bike. I had 2 bikes. I can
Mm-hmm.
only ride one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So he needed a bike. His gym got shut down just like mine did. I'm like, come over and ride
Right.
my bike. Just take my bike. But for my neighbor, it might be a weed eater or a bag
Yeah.
of rice or whatever it could be. There is more of a communal posture to it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think I said this to you on Monday, my HOA is peculiar because out of 88 homes, I'm the youngest resident, and I'm the youngest resident by far. So we have a lot of disconnected elderly here, not just elderly, but they're disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have family nearby. So today I'll walk and I'll bang on a few doors and I'll listen to them talk. Sometimes they just want to talk. They just need to talk. They don't have any contact, and family is several states away, and they feel disconnected. And so just what can I help you with? Do you need me to go to the store for you? Do you need something around the house that needs work on? I mean, that is something I'm excited to see in the church today. To be honest with you, again, it's another thing that I would love to see the church doing in a year. Still knocking on the door. Is there anything I can do for you? Anything we can be praying for? Anything you need? Any way I can help? But yeah, I've been excited to see that.
Yeah, and we've got a 80-something-year-old lady like right next door to us that lives alone. It is a really great opportunity to be there. Obviously, we're going to knock on our door. We're going to back off a little bit, but just to make sure that she's taken care of. So the elderly is at risk. I mean, in general, as far as you know, who do you think would be the most under-resourced in this situation?
Yeah, they'd be on the list. They would be on the list, and I would put up their wage earners, just because I have a son who is 18 and a half and has a job and he works hard at it, but it's likely to shut its doors. It's retail, but it's not super important retail. And so this is a guy that's paycheck to paycheck, like a lot of 18-year-olds. And so it just kind of showed me, wow, he's going to need help. Like his cell phone's got to get paid. Insurance has to get paid. He needs help. There are hundreds of thousands of people like that in the world that don't have a supply chain. They don't have a way to just call mom and dad real quick and say, hey, do you have a couple $100 or $400 or $500? They don't have an ability to do that. And mom and dad might not have the money. So I think I think wage earners are going to struggle right now, which I know the stimulus checks will deflect that, but I don't know how much longer this will go on or if that will help everybody equally. So I think that. I think small business owners, I think, have been an at-risk group. I've had conversations with 2 or 3 in the last 4 days that this is a different struggle. It's a special suffering for them, I think. Whenever you have to have questions like shutting down operations that you've sunk your life savings into, that's difficult. So I think it's going to take a creative way of maybe ministering to small business owners, to be honest with you. So we're looking at some strategies to even do that. What would it take to come alongside a small struggling business? And we've had some good ideas come up actually on how to do that. But I think that's one. I think international students, we're in a college town. So we got a couple thousand international students that are stuck here. I think they're under-resourced, to be honest with you. They can't go home. They can't stay in the dorms. And so some of them are finding. I hadn't
thought about the international.
Yeah, you have more of them there in RDU than we do.
I know. I hadn't even thought about that, to be quite frank about it. So let me show you a graphic that I think is helpful. Now, this is church specific. This is a study that is on Jobs for Life, which is a parachurch ministry, helps people with workplace employment. It was really a reflection of a study done out of Duke University several years ago. It's updated every once in a while. But this is how the church currently, where it spends its money and its support of local nonprofits. Okay, so 62% of the church's money, how they fight poverty, is on food, and then 55% of now this is not of 100% tie, but if the average church is giving $100, 62 out of its, to nonprofit, 62 of those dollars will go actually saying that differently. I think I'm quoting this the wrong way.
Well, no, I think probably some ministries do both food and housing at the same time. Maybe
Right.
maybe there's overlap.
Yeah, there's overlap, but somebody's going to have to help me with this graphic because it's the big idea of it is the proportion of giving people food, shelter, and clothing is where the church spends its money, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's obviously homelessness too. So our local homeless shelter is going there. But if you look here, the church is not spending much money on employment, which a lot of times is either helping unemployed or underemployed. Now, it's the underemployed right now that are going to feel it the most, in my opinion. Because we do have services for unemployment. We do have a welfare system or a way to be able to draw unemployment and a system for that. But the underemployed, which is somebody that's making $12 an hour or $8 an hour, especially if they have a kid at home or whatever. And also health services. Now, again, this is how the church fights poverty, to clarify that. One of the things that I walk away thinking about is, okay, health, I need to still go to my church because of where it goes, but the health of people around me, not only do we have a health care system that couldn't handle COVID-19, but we also don't have nonprofit services, or our church is not putting as much money into caring for people's health and providing the good news of Jesus. Same thing with employment, which is crazy on the employment side, because if somebody has a job where they're not underemployed, they are able to take care of themselves. And that's where most of us in the salaried position, we're not maybe a business owner right now having to make tough decisions, or hourly employees, but we're salaried position are the haves for its time right now. Now that obviously won't last, that can change, and things might come out, or that might affect us as we go.
Yeah.
But all this to say is, our neighbor, especially that is underemployed hourly, you mentioned the small business owner, but also may have health issues, which we brought up as well. Those are ones that are kind of a new, under-resourced. We have a system and a structure, especially on the charitable space, that cannot take care of this middle class or lower middle class section of things. And so I think as we're also knocking on doors, as we're thinking about who to call that are friends, it's helpful to not just start out by saying, hey, how are you doing? And can you really pay your bills right now? Unless we know them really well, we need to start out with listening and being present and being ready to give to those needs.
Yeah.
That's what's coming to mind on me.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's open it up to the group. Who have you witnessed? I'd like to open up. Anybody can. I'm going to ask Luke this question in a second, but anybody here can unmute themselves and join in on any of the previous questions or on this question that I'm about to ask Luke. Who have you witnessed some people giving in some really neat ways? And Luke, why don't you answer that while other people think about the questions, if you can.
I think a unique way, going back to the small business leader, business owner, restaurants in particular, there is a local church, that's semi-local church, that they are partnering with a local restaurant and kind of sending out a bat signal where people from their church is coming in throughout the day, throughout the 24, 48 hours, and getting a meal, and then either handing it out, eating it in, or maybe even buying gift cards from that establishment, just to keep it afloat, knowing that it might be difficult. Because I think the struggle is not so much finding businesses that need help and are worth patronage, but finding recipients for those goods. That's where I think things are choking down. So what some churches are doing is they're buying gift cards, because what that does, it allows you to purchase something now and defer that immediate landing spot for where you're going to give it. So we're waiting on a list from a local elementary school principal on families that might need help. They have kids that are on state lunches.
For sure.
Those would give us addresses. Those would give us landing spots. But if you're trying to move now, that's a way of showing generosity to the local business and showing generosity to the recipient families. You're able to check a couple boxes off with that by utilizing a local merchant or vendor or restaurant, and then pipelining it to people that really need the help.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I hadn't thought about that. That's excellent on the
I didn't think about it either. Someone else did.
yeah, a great idea. That's a fantastic idea. It is a good way to get the restaurant money now,
Yeah.
And somebody food later or when they need it. And
Yeah.
you can always hold on to those, and wait until those needs come to surface for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from anybody else if y'all want to hop in on any of these questions, as well as any neat ways that you've witnessed generosity.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing, Jessica? You're back.
Yeah, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. So I don't know if I'm the only dancer here, but there's been a lot of professional, like really famous choreographers giving free classes on their Instagrams.
Mm.
And so that's just like one way that they've been really generous, because they're like my favorite choreographer who I never thought I could ever take a class from. I've taken 3 classes from this week. And so it's just cool to see them being generous in a way that's taking care of people's like mental and emotional health by just moving and kind of getting that experience.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's good. That's cool. Yeah, I noticed actually Kate teaches my daughter that she teaches at a place, and they've done some video based kind of lessons to be able to keep on, teaching their kids stuff. Exciting. So what's the have you done that or picked up anything with your dance to be able to do things is there a challenge to offering things for free? I mean, it seems like that's kind of, true for many of us, but is my internet struggling a little bit?
It's lagging a little bit.
Okay. All right. Luke, you feel free to take over if you want to. Yeah.
It's not lagging that bad to where someone's got to take it off. Yeah. Yeah. So, but we've got a girl that we're about to have come in and video a clip to kind of help families who have their gyms shut down. And I know that sounds odd, but a lot of people have had their gym or mine did. I mean, I can't go in there right now. And so we're just kind of stuck at home lifting books and doing push-ups and dumb stuff like that we're not prepared for that. So she's an expert on HIIT training with just the stuff around your house. So she's not going to come in and teach people how to do that. She's going to come in and teach a theology of self-care, and then that there's a freedom from shame and embarrassment if you've lost your rhythm. Some people have fought really hard for this rhythm of staying in shape, just in shape. And then whenever the gym is taken away, they don't have anything left. And so they feel this kind of like, oh, I've lost all my fitness, or they feel a little bit of shame. So she's going to come in and talk on that, but we're going to shovel as much traffic as we can over to her Instagram, where she teaches that stuff, where she's got incredible content that she just hands out that people don't even know is there. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in using social media to give away stuff that typically is worth a lot of money. Like what Jessica was saying, those lessons, I've got a girl in dance. Those lessons aren't free. They cost money. So I think that's a great way of giving things away.
Yeah. Okay. So Tom Agnew says online, can you hear me okay? Yeah. Online learning is not mandatory in our district now. However, my second grade teacher has been amazing. She's communicating through the class dojo and providing assignments for the kids to do. The kids are loving seeing her short video each day. She even includes her chickens. Actually, that's Amanda talking. That's hysterical. That is great. Okay, that's cool. Well, good. Yeah, I think, I don't know how it was for you, Luke. Another something that was neat for me was honestly showing up to my church meetings on Zoom where everybody was present. Suddenly was like, okay, here's all these, there are some people that I like and they like me, and it's really good to make contact right now. And that was a real simple, kind of obvious way of really kind of that I felt loved. How's it felt like on with church, and what have you heard back with just small groups or church online?
Yeah, so we did that. We did church online. I mean, I live streamed this last week, and I got a lot of great response. You can tell people were watching it live. They were commenting on it live. People were watching it together. So there was a couple watch parties. Sevier County, which is about 40 minutes away, we have a pocket of a few families that drive in from Sevier, and they all got together in the same living room and watched it together. So it's about 6 or 7 or so of them in there, and they would take pictures of them watching the sermon and leading worship together. And that's exactly what we were looking for, or moments like that, or the family getting up but staying in their pajamas and drinking coffee while they're watching the sermon, and then they can go back to bed, or they just, it was fun to see people engage in their own element, and a lot of them able to do it together. That was fun. And then I think the only time we've used technology so far is just having smaller group meetings. We've really leaned into technology like GroupMe and Zoom to just speed up communication. That's been very helpful. I mean, it's an adjustment. It's technology. I mean, this isn't the same as if there was several of us sitting in a living room right now. It's just not the same, but it's not bad. I mean, it's still the church. I mean, so Sunday morning church is not at a location. It's just who we are. And so, we never really canceled it. We just did it differently. I don't know how much longer that's going to be the case, but I do think churches and missional communities and things like that are going to do a much better job of building a community feel on such a sterile digital space. I think that's going to be fascinating to see how churches innovate. I've already heard some things that, like any innovation, people, they swing too far the other way, or but it's fun to see people trying new and different things on the digital space to connect.
Right. And I think it's also important on the digital space to really connect. About a month ago, there was a revised Cigna health and loneliness indicator report. Basically, Cigna surveys all their members and usually gets about 20,000 people responding in the US, and 3 out of 5 Americans, about actually 61%, a month ago said they were lonely. And that was especially true in the people like college age, 18 to 22, and then also older people as well. But even more so in that college age or whatever, that even just ways of reaching out digitally, since loneliness is so rampant and such an issue, that it really can make a bigger impact, especially if you are more connected in the community. Sometimes you feel less than the average person out there. So Latoya says, we live in the Flint area where there are tons of families that depend on the school to provide breakfast and lunch. With schools being canceled, we've seen organization, individuals, etc., providing sack lunches to close that gap. Man, especially in Flint, Michigan, where they've had, if y'all recall, the water issues, significant issues and deception that happened for quite some time. So school, providing sack lunches to close that gap, especially for those. I mean, asking families, again, you don't want to necessarily show up to people and say, how are you doing? But you might want to say, how are you really doing? And get a little bit more, and then be present and reach out more frequently, because when enough, we're at the end of the pantry, or we're at the end of, our last few dollars. That's going to be a good time to be available for people. Amanda also says, Agnew, we have a church member who's in his final days. He's been placed on palliative care. Yesterday, a few church members gathered to sing hymns outside of his bedroom window. It was an incredible idea initiated by one of our members, not our pastoral staff, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we probably ought to wrap up here. I'd love for everybody to just, in your mind, think about who is somebody you can reach out to and be present with. And who is somebody out there that you could really be able to start to regularly check up on. Instead of trying to save the world for all the problems, just use your influence in your relational circles as they are, and allow God, ask for God to help you see and increase your awareness of who is in need in order to help. Luke, is there anything else you want to share with us today?
No, just to constantly remind people that God is in control. I think that's a better encouragement to people than everything's going to be okay. Everything might not be okay. People are going to lose their jobs and their businesses and their health and even their loved ones in their lives. It's going to happen. But to tell people that God is in control is a very different message entirely. And that he's kind, that he's really sweet to us, and he loves us, and he's thoughtful for us, mindful of us, the Bible says. I think those are constant. I think that's the company line that needs to be refrained and said repeatedly in different ways and in different moments. I think that's a very crucial thing to be repeated in a season like this.
Yeah, I think so too. That's a good word. Stacy Moore just also said, a mentor repeated to her, always says, do for one what you wish you could do for many.
Yeah.
That's a great word. Yeah. It's a great word. All right, let me close this in prayer as we wrap up. Heavenly Father, we do thank you that you are in charge, and that you reign, and that you rule. Help us operate from a place of abundance, knowing that you can create resources, and that you abundantly have saved us and meet every single one of our spiritual needs. Father, there are people here with us, myself included, that have lost a lot of money in the last week. Thank you that our money is not our security, that you are our security.
Yeah.
There are many people here that are worried about their health, certainly about loved ones and their health. We all experience that. Thank you so much that you are the one that provides, and you are the true healer. Father, I pray for those of us that are asking the question, who would you have me love? And I hope that you would allow us to do for one what we wish we could do for many, that we will be able to be all here for them, to be fully present, and to be allowed.
And he is gone. Well, I guess we could go ahead and end it. He has left us officially, but it was good to see you guys. I hope everyone has a great day, and we will catch you on the next on the next Zoom meeting.